You're tuned into News Now on KFUG Community Radio, 101.1 FM and streaming online at kfugradio.org. This co-production between KFUG, the Wild Rivers Outpost, and Redwood Voice is bringing you the latest happenings right here in Delnor County. On tonight's stories, the COVID-19 update corner you've come to expect, how our community is handling it, where we are now, and, as it stands, the quite real possibility of reclosures in the wake of previous failure to adhere to COVID-19 safety guidelines. In other news, Black lives still matter, even if you've not been seeing a lot about it from mainstream news sources, so here's what you need to know to show your support and not let momentum for the movement die down. And in continuation of a story you may remember from earlier this year, the Nick and Lisa Rail Fund that purchased 100 new musical instruments for Delnor schools will now be seeding $1 million for a performing arts center. Alongside this are a few extra segments from Redwood Voice. One regarding how the issues we see across our country are ever present in our county, expressed in the spreading of hate speech from a district supervisor, and one regarding a reporter's feelings on the experience of constantly absorbing negative news and how that has manifested this past week. All this and much, much more on tonight's News Now. For KFUG Community Radio, I'm Persephone Rose, and I'm joined by Avi Critz. First things first, the COVID-19 update. News on the COVID situation as it stands right now, like you've come to expect. This information was written and valid as of July 15th, so be aware of any changes that may have come since then. Upon writing this, there have been a total of 61 confirmed cases in Delnor County. That is up 10 since our last report on News Now, when it was at 51. Currently, there are no active cases. 3,032 tests have been administered. Though there have been 2 hospitalizations from COVID-19 in Delnor County, there are currently no active hospitalizations as they have made recoveries. All of this is according to the Information Hub on the Delnor County Public Health's website, and if you would like to further track this information, you can find it and much more at covid19.dnco.org. As rates continue to grow everywhere else, especially in the state of California, action has been taken to reinstate closures. Though there is county variance, including a list of 29 counties that are being more closely monitored, which Delnor County is not included in, there are still impositions of closure for all counties. According to Governor Gavin Newsom, the 29 counties will now be required to close all of the following indoor operations, effective as of July 13, 2020. Fitness centers, places of worship, offices for non-critical sectors, personal care services, hair salons, barbershops, and malls. Additionally affected as of July 13, 2020, all counties, both the 29 counties and all others in California, are ordered to shut down indoor operations in the following sectors: restaurants, wineries, movie theaters, and other family entertainment centers, zoos, museums, and card rooms. Furthermore, bars will be required to close indoors and outdoors statewide.
Though they favored having students at school for a full day rather than splitting them into morning and afternoon cohorts, Delnor Unified School District trustees were unable to make a decision after 4 hours of discussion on Thursday. Instead, after hearing that the options they were discussing wasn't what was presented to district staff or parents, the school board delayed its decision until Tuesday, urging anyone with ideas to submit them to administrators before then. Before presenting the findings of a survey that garnered 815 parent responses and represented more than 1,500 students, DNUSD Superintendent Jeff Harris told trustees that the model they pick has to be able to transition seamlessly as California moves forward and backwards in its reopening process through the COVID-19 pandemic. Delnor Public Health Officer Dr. Warren Raywalt wouldn't approve school reopening plans, but would help district officials ensure that they're compliant with California Department of Public Health guidelines, Harris said. Now, roughly 50 days before school starts on August 24th, Delnor Unified can offer blended learning, which is in Phase 3 of the state's 4-phase reopening plan, according to Harris. The plan ranged from Phase 1, a full distance learning model, to a full reopening of schools. DNUSD's survey to parents and staff presented them with two learning options. One proposed having half the district students attend in the morning and the other half attend in the afternoon for 4 days a week, with about 70 minutes in the middle to allow for sites to be disinfected and for teachers to prepare. The second model, a 2-1-2 model, involved half of the district students attending in person 2 days a week and participating through distance learning for the remaining 3 days. An online-only model was also proposed, with little or no in-person class time. Of the 815 family responses, 56% favored the AM-PM model, while 31.6% liked the 2-1-2 model the best. Just around 12% wanted an online platform, according to the results. Meanwhile, of roughly 215 district employees, including teachers, classified staff, and administrators, nearly 46.8% favored the AM-PM model, while 37.5% liked the 2-1-2 model. The remaining 15.7% wanted another teaching option, according to the survey results. Each option had its pros and cons. With the AM-PM model, students would be in the classroom every day, but they would only be with a teacher for about 2 hours and 45 minutes, Harris said. Instruction would focus primarily on English and math. With the 2-1-2 model, all students that need transportation would be served by a regular morning and regular afternoon route, Harris said. Hot meals could be prepared, though they'd still need to be consumed in the classroom. And there would be more time to disinfect school sites between student groups, Harris said. This 2-1-2 model would also ensure more time for all subject areas, such as physical education and the arts. Special education students would also have more time to work with counselors and instructional aides. The drawback, though, has to do with childcare, Harris said. He said families may find it more difficult to find consistent childcare. Plus, transportation may not be available to student athletes since cohorts can't mix. Harris said, quote, "It could lead to equity issues where more affluent families with transportation can get students to school to do athletics versus families who struggle with that. That may not be insurmountable. Derek Campbell, the director of transportation, is in conversation with Redwood Coast Transit on what it would look like if they were the primary carrier for our middle school and high school students that need transportation." Though many parents favored an AM-PM blended learning model, Crystal Helton, whose children go to Margaret Keating Elementary School, said she and other parents she'd spoken with changed their minds about that. Helton said she initially liked the AM-PM model over the 2-1-2 model, thinking the morning session would end at noon. But then, she said, she began thinking about how her work schedule and family life would be affected with her kids in school for only 2 hours and 45 minutes a day. Other parents indicated it was also easier for them to plan on 2 full days of schoolwork, childcare, and transportation than over 4 half-days, Helton said. Marcus Endert, a special education resource teacher at Smith River School, said he changed his mind about the 2-1-2 model. He noted that though students are in school only 2 days out of the week, that may be a more normal environment for them than an AM-PM model. Steve Morgan, the district's director of facilities and maintenance, spoke on behalf of his custodial staff, breaking down the amount of time it would really take to sanitize campuses with help from his custodial coordinator. It would take one custodian about 5 minutes to disinfect a classroom and 15 minutes to disinfect a restroom, he said. With 14 school sites, the district would need 13 to 16 more people to ensure things were sanitized properly in 70 minutes, Morgan said.
And now, a segment from Redwood Voice. Black Lives Matter. Black lives still matter, even if you're not seeing anything about it in mainstream media sources or on your Facebook timeline. Just because the news has given a milking it of story potential does not mean that black people's lives are a trend that can fade away once energy for the movement recedes. If you search online just about anywhere on social media, you'll see that protests, marches, and rallies are still going strong. You'll see that the effort and demand for change has not died down, even if attention towards the movement has. There are those who may argue that there's been enough change, but there's clear discord in what is being asked. Protesters ask that the police are defunded, that murderous police who do not have business murdering civilians regardless of innocence or guilt be held accountable, and that power be taken away from police and given towards community-based solutions that have far more potential to better the way justice operates. Instead, society changes the name and shape of the Aunt Jemima syrup bottle, people paint the words Black Lives Matter on a few streets, and feel that these are enough to justify further action, and that asking for more is selfish or burdensome, avoiding altogether what it is the movement wants in the first place. Not to mention the fact that so many people who are against this movement claim these few measures are drastic or unnecessary, and use it to undermine the movement itself, rather than recognize it is not what they asked for in the first place. Black lives matter, and they are going to continue to matter. All lives do not matter if a portion of all of those lives are being murdered by the very people sworn to protect them and enforce justice. If you support this movement, here's a list of actions that you can take. This list was inspired by The Radical magazine, as its order of these items were the most comprehensive and useful for making them into actionable responses. We recommend reading their works further in order to keep up with information and resources on the movement. 1. Sign petitions. Signing petitions, despite plenty of online skepticism, has garnered great change as it puts visible pressure towards these issues that can seldom be ignored. On many of the update sections for popular petitions that have gained greater attention, you can typically find updates on what the amount of support has brought to the table. However, it is important to note, if you are signing petitions on change.org, do not donate to them. The money does not go to the petition itself, but instead to change.org, some of which is supposed to go to sharing the petition, but not specifically to supporting it, nor in the hands of the people who are actually making these petitions. Instead, it is far wiser to just share the post so that you still accomplish what the money is going for, and then donate your money directly to Black Lives Matter-based programs, especially those who are actually led by people of color. 2. Text, call, email, or otherwise contact the responsible police departments and legislators to demand justice for victims of police brutality, such as Breonna Taylor, who was murdered by Louisville police officers. So far, one of the officers has been fired, and that has been the extent of justice for Breonna since her murder on March 13th earlier this year. There is no justice for her until all 3 officers, Jonathan Mattingly, Miles Cosgrove, and Brett Hankinson, are arrested and convicted of murder. This can be applied to many of the cases of victims of police brutality. 3. Donate. Some of the organizations you should donate to and by extension follow in order to keep updates and connections to current ongoings are Black Lives Matter, Color of Change, Reclaim the Block, and Showing Up for Racial Justice. Actively follow these organizations. 4. Read articles and learn about what defunding the police truly means. There are several Medium articles online regarding this, and even a video on Redwood Voice that explains the situation from a local point of view in Del Norte County. 5. Educate yourself on racism, allyship, anti-racism, and more. Do not harass or expect your black friends or acquaintances to constantly be there as your race encyclopedia. It is draining, it is tiring, and it is your responsibility to educate yourself on the numerous resources out there. They're free, and there's a lot of them. 6. Ultimately, share these means with others. It is our responsibility as a society to uphold these utmost basic values and stand beside black lives. White people can never walk in the shoes of black people, but we can walk beside them. We can do what we can to support, we can educate ourselves, and we can listen. Redwood Voice has been and is still incredibly interested in doing a project to amplify black voices. We are waiting to plan the project because our team consists of an all-white crew, and we want to make sure we are not co-opting the message or otherwise changing it. Whatever work we do, we want to make sure that it is purely to benefit the black community. If you are interested in being part of this, giving us ideas, or anything at all with being involved in this project, please reach out to us. We can be reached on Facebook at facebook.com/redwoodvoice.dnatl or emailed at redwoodvoicedn@gmail.com. Stay safe, and Black Lives Matter.
Nick Rail returned to his roots when he donated 100 musical instruments to Del Norte schools in January. Now, the music retailer, who attended Del Norte schools in the 1950s and 60s, and his wife Lisa, have planted the seed for a performing arts center, pledging $1 million to get the project started. Rail said he would work with Del Norte Unified School District, which also governs the County Office of Education and the Wilderness Community Foundation. A fundraising campaign will focus on obtaining government and foundation grants along with private donors, he said. In January, the Rails established the Nick and Lisa Rail Fund, which, along with the musical instruments, has since paid for stage lighting at Crescent Auditorium and established a musical instrument repair shop at Del Norte High School. According to Rail, the repair shop provides career technical education classes in musical instrument repair and contributes to the maintenance of those the district already owns. With the Performing Arts Center, Rail said, The goal is for it to house roughly 800 people and serve as a venue for student activities and community organizations like Lighthouse Repertory Theater, the Del Norte Association of Cultural Awareness, and the Community Concerts Association. For-profit uses would come third, Rail said. Though it's the first time trustees have heard about the proposed Performing Arts Center, DNUSD Superintendent Jeff Harris said he and Rail have discussed the idea with former DNHS band teacher Gitlin Rust and her current band director, Dan Sedgwick. Harris said he plans to bring a proposed resolution and a memorandum of understanding between the district and the Rails to the Board of Trustees in August. A feasible study and fundraising campaign will also be necessary, though Lee Howe, who graduated from Del Norte High School in 1967, said they don't want to take away from community donations that would go to other local causes. He said, quote, "We don't want to be robbing Peter to pay Paul. There may be people that are giving now to other organizations within the county. We want to see that continue. It's our job to get the money from outside the county." End quote. Sedgwick called the proposed Performing Arts Center a game changer. He said, quote, "This isn't just going to help the high school, but the whole community. We all know what graduation's like when it rains. It would be truly amazing to have the facility to house events like this. It'll just be amazing." End quote.
And now, a press release from the Yurok Tribe. California Governor Gavin Newsom recently appointed Yurok Education Department Director Jim McQuillen to the State Board of Education. McQuillen said, quote, "I am honored to receive this appointment by Governor Newsom. In this role, I will continue to advocate for our Native students and for all students to receive equitable education services." End quote. McQuillen is the first Yurok citizen to serve on the State Board of Education, which is California's K-12 policy-making body for academic standards, curriculum, instructional materials, assessments, and accountability. During his 4-year term on the board, he will draw upon 30 years of relevant experience to positively influence the lives of California students. McQuillen said, quote, "I will continue in my current position as I give it my best to represent the unique needs of our students, which is more important than ever because of the COVID-19 pandemic. In this new reality, we need to develop novel methods of engaging students in the learning process since they may continue to learn remotely going into the fall. I want to help our youth feel more connected to each other and the community as a whole through participation in safe activities that promote wellness and inclusivity." End quote. As the Yurok Tribe's Education Department Director, McQuillen oversees a staff of 75 employees who are focused on improving scholastic outcomes for students of every age, ranging from toddlers to young adults. The department consists of 3 Head Starts, the nationally recognized Yurok language program, a higher education program, and several other services that support the advancement of tribal youth. McQuillen headed up the team that paved the way for the Yurok language to be taught in 3 separate school districts. He is also a recipient of the American Civil Liberties Union's Chief Justice Earl Warren Civil Liberties Award. In 2017, the ACLU presented McQuillen with this prestigious accolade for bringing local Native American language, culture, and history to numerous public school classrooms in Humboldt and Del Norte counties. Joseph L. James, the chairman of the Yurok Tribe, said, quote, "Jim is a consistent champion for the students of the North Coast, and I have no doubt that he will be an equally amazing advocate for youth throughout the state. Governor Newsom selected a great individual." End quote. McQuillen, a descendant from the village of Turup, is a lifelong practitioner of the tribe's traditional culture. His family organizes an annual brush dance, which is a healing ceremony. In addition to cultural upbringing, McQuillen holds a Master of Arts degree in psychology from California State University, Sacramento, a pupil personnel services credential in school counseling, as well as a marriage family therapy license in California. He has been in private practice, a lecturer at Humboldt State University, and an assistant principal. He has served as the director of the Yurok Tribe's Education Department since 2004 and will remain in this position while serving on the state board. Members of the State Board of Education are first nominated for the position and then appointed by the governor. Each appointment requires confirmation from the California State Senate. Board members serve a 4-year term. The 11 appointed members meet for 2 days every other month. The California State Board of Education meetings can be viewed live here. cde.ca.gov/be/PN/LV/index.asp. If you are viewing the video of this newscast, that link will be listed on the screen above.
The Yurok Tribe is using COVID-19 federal relief dollars to build a new emergency operations center near its Klamath headquarters. The following is from a tribal Facebook post. Today, the Yurok Tribal Council broke ground on a brand new, centrally located Emergency Operations Center in Klamath. Joseph L. James, the chairman of the Yurok Tribe, said, quote, "This is a good day for the Yurok people. The new facility will serve the tribe during the pandemic, and it will provide a permanent base of operations for future emergencies. We are extremely excited about this project and what it means for our community," end quote. Ryan Ray, the Yurok Tribal Council's Recro District representative, added, quote, "The emergency center is something we've needed for a really long time, and I'm very excited to see it finally become a reality. This critical piece of infrastructure will benefit the community for many decades to come," end quote. Once complete, the Emergency Operations Center will house the Yurok Incident Command Team. Should the need arise, a portion of the building can also be used to isolate mildly ill COVID-19 patients until they are no longer contagious. The approximately 19,000 square foot facility will include a spacious command center, several multi-purpose rooms, kitchen, laundry facilities, fitness area, restrooms, shower, and a locker room. The Yurok Emergency Operations Center is being constructed with funds from the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. In addition to the emergency infrastructure, the Tribal Council has invested CARES Act dollars into a COVID-19 Relief Fund program. The Yurok Alliance CDFI-administered program offers forgivable loans to help tribal business owners and entrepreneurs stay solvent during this recession. The tribe has also sent $1,250 checks to tribal citizens over the age of 18, by December 30, 2020, who are facing financial challenges because of the pandemic. On March 13th, the Yurok Tribal Council issued an emergency declaration mobilizing more than 100 staff members to confront the many facets of this unparalleled public health emergency. On April 6th, the tribe closed the reservation to visitors and instituted a curfew. The Tribal Council also issued an order requiring residents to wear face coverings in public. To date, there have been no confirmed COVID-19 cases on the Yurok Reservation.
And now, a segment from Redwood Voice. As we've previously discussed, Black Lives Matter. This is a fight still going on. In our country, there are numerous fights going on simultaneously. Divisiveness, hate, and the battle against it are not new. Something we forget, however, is that those very things happen right here in our tiny corner of Delnor County. Delnor County 1st District Supervisor Roger Gitlin made a Facebook post on July 11th, a sentence that I'm sure you love to hear in the news. Though the post was the written thoughts of Protestant evangelist Franklin Graham, Gitlin made certain in his post that he not only agreed with the message, but hoped that others would spread it. The following is the post in question from Roger Gitlin. Quote, "This is Franklin Graham, son of Billy Graham, who delivered this powerful speech to the congregation of the First Baptist Church of Jacksonville, Florida. Franklin's every word speaks for me and millions of other Americans. I hope you pass this post on to your Facebook friends." Beginning the quote of Franklin Graham's speech, "Time is like a river. You cannot touch the water twice because the flow has passed will never pass again. America will not come back. The American dream ended November 6, 2012. The second term of Barack Obama has been the final nail in the coffin for the white Christian males who discovered, explored, pioneered, settled, and developed the greatest republic in the history of mankind. Coalition of black, Latinos, feminists, gays, government workers, union members, environmental extremists, the media, Hollywood, uninformed young people, the forever needy, the chronically unemployed, illegal aliens, and other fellow travelers have ended Norman Rockwell's America. You will never again outvote these people. It will take individual acts of defiance and massive displays of civil disobedience to get the rights we have allowed them to take away. It will take zealots, not moderates and the shy, not reach across the aisle, rhinos, Republican in name only, to right the ship and restore our beloved country to its former status. People like me are completely politically irrelevant, and I will probably never again to be able to legally comment on or concern myself with the aforementioned coalition, which has surrendered our culture, our heritage, and our tradition without a shot being fired. The Cocker Spaniel is off the porch, the Pit Bull is in the backyard, the American Constitution has been replaced with Saul Alinsky's rule for radicals, and the likes of shyster David Axelrod and International Socialist George Soros have been pulling the strings of the beige puppet and has brought us Act 2 of the New World Order. The curtain will come down, but the damage has been done. The story has been told. Those who arrive after this generation will again have to risk their lives, their fortunes, their sacred honor to bring back the republic that this generation has timidly frittered away due to white guilt and political correctness. In God we trust. Thus ends the end of Franklin Graham's speech, and continues Roger Gitlin's original wording. Thank you, Franklin Graham. God bless you. Signed, Roger Gitlin. End quote. End of Facebook post. That was a lot. This grotesque display has only made it clear the intentions of Gitlin and his thoughts on where power belongs. Straight, white, cisgender Christian men. The comments section reflected an overwhelming message of opposition against these ideologies and the information in this post. Lisa Critz, for instance, who consented to us using her comment, commented, quote, "So here we have an elected representative, paid by our taxes, sharing a racist, homophobic, anti-Semitic, parentheses, really, George Soros lived through the Holocaust, and although I'm not a fan of wealth hoarders, aka billionaires, this conspiracy theory is ridiculous. No one is funding this. People are out there fighting because they believe in the cause. If that doesn't make sense to you, it's on you." End of parentheses. Generally bigoted nonsense rant. Look, people, white males have ruled for literally thousands of years. Your time is up. Why is that a problem? It's other people's turn now. There are more of us than there are of you, as you will see come November. I advise you to accept it, because we are here, and we aren't giving up the fight for what we know is right. It's time for people who have empathy for others to take over. Why, Roger? Why are you so upset about this? We're a democracy and the majority rules. White men, at least white men who feel as you do, are very much the minority, and that's okay. Are you, Roger Gitlin, saying that you have a problem with people of color in charge? With LGBTQ people in charge? With women, including women of color, in charge? I and people who feel as I do, parentheses, there are a lot of us, in parentheses, want to know. End quote. Another Facebook user, who preferred to remain unnamed for this newscast, commented, quote, "White Christian males discover the Republic? That's odd. I was under the impression that white Christian males had to kill a bunch of native peoples to settle on these lands called America. Is that why you refused a government-to-government meeting with the Yurok Tribe? Because we aren't white Christian males and therefore are not worthy for your time, Roger? This is hate speech, and you are supporting hate towards blacks, Latinos, feminists, and LGBTQ humans. How utterly disgusting." End quote. Others commented with similar thoughts. During the public comment section of the last Delaware County Board of Supervisors meeting, streamed on July 14th, Julia Dorman spoke out regarding Gitlin's post. Here's the audio from that meeting.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for letting me speak today. I am joining you today as a concerned citizen, and as some of you know very well, someone who was born and raised in Delaware County. While I'm not currently a resident of Delaware County, I have strong ties to this community, with many friends and families still living in the area. I've returned to this community that I consider home several times each year to visit with loved ones, support local businesses, and enjoy the natural beauty of the Wild Rivers coast. When I did live in this community, I gave my whole heart and soul to it, as I know many people in this area continue to do. And it is the love for my home that compels me to speak out now. I have been following the troublesome posts on Roger Gitlin's Facebook page for some time, where he advocates for people to ignore social distancing guidelines, support businesses that defy state and tribal orders, and even goes so far as to suggest that Sutter Coast Hospital is intentionally misdiagnosing patients with COVID-19 for financial gain. He has been actively encouraging people on his platform to endanger their fellow community members by spreading misinformation about the effectiveness of masks, as well as recommending that his followers carry fake mask exemption cards. This rhetoric alone should be enough to render him ineligible to hold public office, but this week, Roger took it one step further. He reposted the written version of a speech that some people have credited to Franklin Graham, an evangelist who supports conversion therapy and has been publicly criticized by the NAACP. In his post, Roger declares, "Franklin's every word speaks for him." This post, which I included in my original email to the board, is obviously racist, homophobic, and discriminatory in almost every other sense. Roger makes it very clear in this post that he only intends to represent the interests of the white, straight Christians in his district, no exceptions. He has no consideration for the wonderful diversity that makes Delaware County so special. including its tribal communities, Latinx communities, Hmong communities, among others. He has no regard for the potential harm he is inciting towards the communities referenced in this post, and he continues to tolerate comments on his page making fun of and promoting harm against members of the LGBTQ community. This is absolutely unacceptable behavior from an elected district supervisor who is called to represent all of his constituents equitably and who is currently financially supported by Del Norte County taxpayers. As elected officials, you have an obligation and a responsibility to condemn Roger's rhetoric at the very least. Roger and his hyperbole will likely contribute to longstanding mistrust in the board by those that feel targeted by his comments. His discourse only serves to polarize the people who live in and visit this community. This will undoubtedly drive residents and tourists away from Del Norte County at a time when this community needs their support more than ever. I've been so impressed to see Del Norte County rise in ways that I never imagined, and I would hate to see that moment.
There's 3 minutes. Would you please wrap it up?
Yep, last sentence. So I have been so impressed to see Del Norte County rise in ways that I never imagined, and I would hate to see that momentum hindered due to the inflammatory language of an elected official. I urge you all to take swift action to censure Roger and his hate speech and make it clear that you stand with and support all residents of Del Norte County. Thank you.
I personally, yes I, Persephone Rose, the Newscast reader, am working to develop a longer form story inspired by Gitlin's post. It will involve breaking down the blatant wrongness of much of the information and ideas contained in the post, as well as reviewing the history of some of Gitlin's actions in order to inform people of the extent of the danger that he poses being a supervisor. While it surely will not change the minds of his diehard supporters, I can only hope it will serve to notify people of the kind of person he represents. Updates on the longer form story will be made when available.
And now, a segment from Redwood Voice. Quick content warning, this story involves drowning and death. 1 week ago, actress Naya Rivera went missing from Lake Piru in Ventura County, California. She had gone to the lake with her 4-year-old son and rented a pontoon boat to take out on the water. 3 hours later, the boat was found adrift with a sleeping child inside. The child was wearing his life vest, and there was an adult life vest next to him on the boat. He said that he and his mother went swimming, and when he got back on the boat, his mother was gone. The search for Naya Rivera lasted 5 days and concluded on Monday the 13th, when they discovered her body in the northeast area of the lake. While this may seem a bit out of place in our newscast, I want to speak personally about Rivera's death and how it affected me, as well as how negative news can be especially damaging to mental health in these difficult times. Naya Rivera was best known for her role as Santana Lopez on Glee. The target audience for the show was band and choir kids, so obviously I was a pretty big fan. I owned a few DVDs and watched the show in full when it came onto Netflix after the finale. The show, having a large queer fan base, also included LGBTQ+ characters in its storylines. One of these characters was Santana Lopez, a mean girl cheerleader who joins the Glee Club late in Season 1. Santana was shown to be in a relationship with another cheerleader, Brittany, and had a main coming-out storyline in Season 3, and even got married to Brittany in the series finale. As a young queer kid, seeing LGBTQ+ people represented on screen was huge. This was the case for many queer kids who watched the show and felt a very strong connection to Santana and her journey with her sexuality. And also her performances were iconic, but that's beside the point. Either way, fans were connected to Naya Rivera and the character she portrayed, even years after the show had ended. So, last Wednesday, when I heard she had gone missing and was presumed dead, it hit me in a way that I wasn't really expecting. I checked the news and refreshed the Twitter tag as often as I could in the hope that someone would have answers. Instead, it was full of fans typing out desperate questions and prayers for Naya, flooding the tag with grief and panic. As I spent Wednesday night refreshing and checking that tag, I found myself grieving in a very strange way. I was poking the bruise, tying more and more of my energy to checking these posts. I messaged other people on Twitter, I made posts of my own regarding the situation, and I even called the Ventura Sheriff's Department to ask if they were continuing the search overnight. I found myself in a depressive spiral as the clock passed into the early hours of the morning. I didn't sleep that night. Grieving the death of a person who was influential in your life is never an easy or an expected thing. Grieving the death of a celebrity is an especially weird case, as so many people felt love for this person and their art, so those people feel the loss. What I think is different about receiving news, particularly bad news right now, is the inability to escape or distract yourself from it. We're stuck at home, scrolling through social media as one of the few connections to the outside world. And it's difficult to escape a trending hashtag when everyone you know wants to talk or post about it. This is especially prominent in the wake of the murder of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter protests. For me personally, it's difficult to find the balance between wanting to stay informed and making sure I am mentally healthy. Hearing that more injustices have gone on in the world and I'm still at home makes me feel both overwhelmed and like I'm not doing enough. We live in a very, very turbulent time right now. Worrying news dominates social media, and it can be very difficult to pull yourself away when you need to take a break from it all. But there is nothing wrong with stepping away from social media or the news cycle if you aren't in a mentally healthy place. I know it seems like we have to be updated at all times and stay on top of the news, but that can be damaging to people who are suffering from depression, anxiety, or other mental illnesses. If you are suffering from a mental illness and need some assistance, there are plenty of resources online that can give you tips and tricks to help deal with these issues. Helpguide.org has articles about how to deal with panic and anxiety attacks, as well as ways to prevent them before they get overwhelming. I highly encourage visiting this site and those like it to help deal with depression or anxiety you might have in these troubling times. Remember to also take breaks, drink water, go outside, get some fresh air. That can be especially helpful if you feel like you are trapped. Just remember, it's not selfish to make sure that you're okay. There are plenty of people fighting against injustice in the world, and they will still be here when you feel ready to stand back up again. Rest in peace, Naya, and thank you for the bravery that you gave to your audience.
Redwood Voice is continuing to bring out its new Redwood Voicecast in order to keep connected with the community. This past week, the second ever Redwood Voicecast aired and has been posted to YouTube. In it, we explore the following subjects. Persephone gives everything a bit of a facelift, from the very newscast you're listening to right now, to the means in which Redwood Voice content is produced. We talk about News Now, the Youth Training Academy, and our hopes for its safe incorporation and recruiting new members of Redwood Voice, putting the How Did We Get Here audio drama a bit towards the back burner in wake of some recent struggles, but our commitment to eventually seeing it through, and what's happening with the new direction of the My Corona comic book video anthology, rather than what would have been previously a regular print anthology that will hopefully begin sometime soon. We also run into some computer issues, which make things a little weird, but in a fun way. Join us in our very second ever Redwood Voicecast, a podcast where we talk about the latest happenings behind the scenes of a Redwood Voice. But of course, if you would like a more apt explanation and feel of the Voicecast, you can listen to it for yourself on the Redwood Voice YouTube channel. For more information on Redwood Voice, you can check out their website, redwoodvoice.org, or their Facebook page, facebook.com/redwoodvoice.dnatl. For all links on Redwood Voice, for maximum navigation efficiency, you can find our link tree, linktr.ee/Redwood Voice. Thanks again for tuning into News Now. To hear more episodes of our newscast, check out kfugradio.org or our YouTube channel. Special thanks to Rivers Outpost and Jessica Sanar, Crescent City Bureau Chief, for providing great content. Tune in 2 weeks from now to KFUG Community Radio 101.1 FM or stream on kfugradio.org online to hear more news from your favorite local radio station. This newscast was edited by Persephone Rose. The voices of this newscast were Persephone Rose and Avi Critz.